Dichotomy of Life is a powerful story that explores the fragile line between compassion and neglect within the world of healthcare. Through the eyes of Aimee Dela Cruz, a dedicated patient care technician whose faith and empathy guide her service, we witness both the beauty of selfless care and the devastating consequences when duty is stripped of humanity. Set in a long-term care hospital in Tampa, the narrative shines a light on the sanctity of life, the moral challenges faced by caregivers, and the stark contrasts between those who heal with love and those who harm through indifference.
Dichotomy of Life. Aimee Dela Cruz is an enthusiastic and diligent healthcare worker at a long-term hospital located in Carrollwood, downtown Tampa, Florida. She felt real empathy for those entrusted to her care. Aimee's sense of purpose stemmed from her training, life experiences, and her faith in God, which taught her that what we put out usually returns within time and sometimes is multiplied. Therefore, it is essential always to treat others well, because we may need similar care someday. As Hebrews 6:10 reminds us, God is just. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you helped his people and continue to help them. Aimee's wisdom has led her down a path shielded by faith and guided by God's grace to outcomes that honor the life given to her by him. She cared for the sick not merely for financial gains, but to enrich their lives and that of her own. Her title in the position of healthcare personnel changes depending on varying factors, but each one solidified her role and impact on the lives of those in need of her services. Now, as a patient care tech, Aimee participates in frontline care for those requiring life-sustaining support. Her usual role is to improve and maintain quality of life by ensuring continued health and the well-being of those in her care. She knows only too well that the line between health and illness, there lie vulnerable lives, exposed in their simplest form, stripped of inhibitions, helpless not by choice but due to the lack of it. Illness, when it comes to us, is unpredictable, and its force shifts our life off balance without us having a final say in its outcome. It is at this point of awareness that the validity and sanctity of life should be valued through our approach with kindness. Isaiah 53:5 laid the foundation for why we should care because God first cared for us. As Isaiah so explained, but he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. Being aware of the dichotomy of life, those two sharp points that can swing in any direction, Aimee knew she could not be any different from what she was, because if she kept living, who knew what the future would bring? Upon leaving home, she was filled with trepidation, unsure which wing she would be working on, and with whom she would be working. As a new employee, she was placed wherever the need was, and that approach towards new hires was deliberate. The idea behind its strategy was to develop a comprehensive understanding of the patient's needs and respond effectively as needed. As she pulled into the staff parking lot, she looked across the horizon, and the fading sunlight had already made way for the sunset, which created another version of God's mystique within this creation. As a lover of life, despite its challenges, Aimee paused briefly to soak in its beauty, another one of life's greatest gifts, which was free. Sunny's hospital, where she has been employed for 2 months, was unique. It was a place where people who were too sick to stay in a traditional hospital came to spend their final days. There were occasional success stories of people being able to go home. There was also a geriatrics wing. She had been trained in geriatrics, where she fluctuated between her specialties. However, thanks to her strong work ethic and collaborative approach, she worked in both wings. After clocking in for the 12-hour shift, she checked the evening schedule, which was available for incoming staff near their clock-in location. On seeing the floor and the name of the presiding charge nurse, with whom she was paired for the next 12 hours, it was as if the air was let out of her lungs. In quick, short breaths, Aimee nervously approached the nursing station, trying her best not to look idiotic. Working in the healthcare field for over 15 years, she saw everything until she met her. Aimee had previously clashed with her charge for the night over her method of caring for those in her service. This nurse was the proverbial nurse from hell. At face value, she personified what a nurse should be, Aimee thought. She is always well-groomed and friendly. Her melodious voice dazzled the senses, leaving you wanting to be her friend. Laughter has always surrounded her outside the patient's room. As a result, Aimee secretly called her Nurse Butterfly. Once Nurse Butterfly began patient care, she evolved into a shock from the deep. Her grip brought pain. Her unleashing of how she felt about whoever she was caring for left her victim, not patient, romancing death. Mr. Day, one of her patients with a tracheostomy, was next in line. During the night, he had been running a high fever and elevated blood pressure, and at times had difficulty breathing. As his assigned patient care tech for the shift, Aimee kept a close eye on him throughout the night. At about dawn, she noticed he was having serious difficulties breathing and perspiring heavily. She took his vital signs. His fever and blood pressure were dangerously high, which caused an alarm. Mr. Day indicated to her, by gesturing with his hand, that he needed his electric fan turned on. Immediately, she switched it on, then informed Nurse Butterfly of his condition. Her response was, "I have done all that I can for him. He wants to be pampered, and I do not have the time to pamper him." Frustratingly, it was not as if she were busy doing patient care. She was either socializing or reading a magazine. Unable to hold her peace any longer, Aimee blurted out, "I am going to talk to the supervisor. Someone must help this man before he dies." Angrily, Nurse Butterfly pulled herself away from her catalog, storming back into Mr. Day's room, shouting, "I've done all I can for you." Switching off his fan, she continued in her tirade. "I do not want to get your germs all over me. What do you want me to do?" she demanded while glaring at him. Frustrated and angered by her approach and response, Aimee quickly walked away. She could not stay another second in the same area with that woman without jeopardizing her job. The culture throughout the facility was that one did not question one's superior's actions or decisions, as they were considered to know best, and insubordination was a reason for termination. Those last few hours of work left her horrified and overwhelmed by the ugliness of the darker side of human nature, masquerading as an angel of care. Nurse Butterfly stormed out of the room on her heels, returning to her favorite spot, a chair in the corner with her fashion catalog waiting. There she plopped down on her chair and continued surfing through its pages as she passed the time for which she was being paid. Observing the insanity of it, Aimee drew closer to her, staring at her, which made her uncomfortable. Her eyes and Aimee's made four, and she knew exactly what Aimee was thinking, which spoke volumes. She hoped no one would become aware of it. Becoming uncomfortable with Aimee's stare, she reluctantly returned to his room with an annoying attitude. Following behind her, looking on in utter disbelief at such callousness, Aimee watched as she went through her routine, then hastily returned to her seat. As Aimee looked at both, She became unsure who deserved her sympathy most, the sick Mr. Day, whose illness was terminal, or his nurse, who was emotionally bankrupt. Who should be working in a slaughterhouse somewhere? At that moment, Aimee's contempt for her was raw. Once more, she took his vital signs. They were dangerously high. At that point, she called the supervisor. Upon her arrival, Nurse Butterfly quickly appeared, now acting concerned and attentive. Aimee bites her lips to suppress the raging anger. At that moment, she wanted to tell her to go into the cattle business. It was quite apparent that the field of nursing was not for her. Sadly, Mr. Day did not make it that night, but neither did Nurse Butterfly. She was let go from her employment at the hospital. Management realized she would cost more than they could afford to pay. Mr. Day was alive up to that night, but Nurse Butterfly had died long before she had ever met him. Her trail of subpar patient care was widely known and frequently discussed among the staff within and outside the hospital. That night, she had crossed the line between the sanctity of life and the blatant disregard for it. Aimee later learned that she had spent a good part of her professional life harvesting body parts in the organ donor community. As a result, having witnessed life as it once was, but reduced to parts measured and valued by their demand in the healthcare communities, she too has lost her whole, and the part missing most was her heart. Her nursing profession harvesting body parts did her in as a person, but sadly, for her, she suffered the biggest loss in having lost her soul. The dichotomy of life serves as a reminder to be aware of individuals like us, for God values each life. The sharp points of life that keep us mindful of the unknown will intersect as dictated by the powers that cause us to be powered by God, yet all within His limit. Therefore, it is at this crossroads of our humanity where lies the need to extend compassion, tolerance, acceptance, and the value of all of life. Romans chapter 12-3 reminds us, "For the grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. It is sin create that deplete one's soul, but God is in control, and one of His specialties is dealing with our brokenness when we let Him." Thank you for being a part of our family. Please remember to like and subscribe for notifications whenever we post updated content.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't for more stories like these. Do not forget to hit the like button and also share. Kindly leave a comment to share your ideas. Thank you.